So this is kind of like part 2 of a video that I just did about enlightenment called Enlightenment is a Scam, but I want to approach it from a slightly different direction. In that video, I asked 3 questions. What is enlightenment? Is it possible? And is it desirable? And the third one, I think, is the most interesting question, and I want to talk about that in this video by way of a story. So this story was told to me by a former teacher of mine, Brian Swim, who is a famous cosmologist, and he is featured in the movie Journey of the Universe that I would highly recommend. Now, Brian's mentor was a guy named Thomas Berry, who was a brilliant thinker and an author, and he has this quotation that I've quoted several times, which is that the Earth is not a collection of objects, but a communion of subjects. So he's very much into kind of Earth theology. He calls himself a geologian, which is kind of like a geologist and a theologian combined. So he believes in sort of the sacredness of the Earth. So Brian was at one point a student of Thomas, and he was very enamored of him. He was very impressed by his writing and his teaching. And one day Thomas said to Brian, he said, "What do you want most out of life, Brian?" And obviously this caused him to pause and to think. And finally, after some time, he said, "I want to be enlightened." And Thomas thought about it for a second, and he said, "Brian, I would encourage you to pursue a more noble aspiration." So I love this story, and I include it at the end of New Age Wasteland and at the beginning of my previous book, Overcoming Empire. And the reason that I like it so much is that the message is kind of ambiguous, and it leaves you to wonder. But my takeaway is that Thomas was referring to the tradition of the Bodhisattva, which in the Buddhist traditions is somebody who agrees or takes a vow to forego enlightenment, personal enlightenment, until the enlightenment of every last creature. So if you reflect on the Bodhisattva ideal and the Bodhisattva vow, as I have done, you will realize that it is impossible, right? Even if enlightenment is possible, waiting for the enlightenment of all beings and all creatures, including microorganisms and rocks, that is an impossible task. It will take forever and ever. So it's not that one should think about it as a doable task, but rather as an aspiration that sort of sets your heart-mind in the right place. So basically what the Bodhisattva ideal is a gesture towards our interdependence. And you've heard this talked about by many teachers, not just Buddhist teachers, but people like Martin Luther King Jr., who said that basically an injustice to one is an injustice to all. Basically, if there is suffering somewhere in the world, it will cause me to suffer. I cannot be fully free until all beings are free. So all of this is just another way to say that enlightenment is a scam, at least personal enlightenment, the idea that I just want to achieve 5D consciousness and get out of here or escape samsara or whatever. If we are indeed all interdependent, then personal enlightenment is not only impossible, it's not desirable.